Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. Apple announcing serious security issues with a variety of its products. The company said its iPhone, iPad, and Mac products are prone to severe vulnerabilities, which could possibly allow someone to take complete control over the devices. Apple said those hackers would be able to act as the device's owner and run any software in their name. Right now, we do want to hear from Fox 5 in D.C. One of their reporters spoke to everyday Americans like you and me who use Apple products to see if they're concerned about this. Let's listen in.
I absolutely do.
How many?
4?
Yeah, ask around and you're going to hear that a lot. How many Apple devices do you own?
3.
I own 2.
Like 5 or 6, I'd say.
Which is why security experts say that makes new security flaws disclosed by Apple something just about all of us need to be aware of.
There's 2 vulnerabilities specifically that if they're not patched, it could allow remote execution or remote takeover of a phone.
You're saying it's possible for hackers to take over your phone?
Yes, it's possible for hackers to take over your phone, potentially with this vulnerability.
Not to mention iPads and computers too, according to Lou Raban, the founder and CEO of Cyber Defense Group. Even the federal government put out a warning saying an attacker could exploit one of these vulnerabilities to take control of an affected device.
What Apple's stating is you need to get your iPhone patched and your macOS updated as soon as possible. This is very critical.
We did hear from some Apple users who told us they weren't all that concerned.
Then I don't keep anything on there.
But Raban said even if you don't think you're important enough to be hacked, even if you don't think you've got anything of value, he'd still recommend strongly that you play it safe.
Hackers are now moving downstream and they're starting to ransomware and threaten people, just consumers. And they might say, hey, give us $20,000 or we're going to release these unflattering pictures to your family or loved ones, etc. And a lot of people will pay.
It's scary because I have everything on my phone and now I feel vulnerable to that.
Updating your devices shouldn't be all that tough. Raban said in most cases you're going to get a warning that tells you that you should do it. Otherwise, he said, at least on most phones, you can go to Settings, General, and then Software Update. Guys.
All right, that was Fox 5's Josh Rosenthal there for us, kind of breaking down this story. Let's talk about it even further. We're being joined right now on the program by David Kennedy with Trusted Sec, and we've had you on the program before. It's been a while, David. Good to see you. My first question, though, have you known Apple to really sound the alarm this kind of forcefully about one of these security vulnerabilities that their software, that their platform has? And does that kind of lend credence to the fact that, hey, you need to update your software?
Yeah, so this one specifically is pretty alarming. Apple's actually had 4 other what we call 0 days or unknown or unpublished vulnerabilities that they've discovered that they've released security advisories for and patches this year. These 2 in particular, though, have 2 warnings with them. One, it takes advantage of what's called WebKit, which is what Safari uses. So if somebody's browsing a website that has this exploit, it then allows the attacker to take control of your phone. And then there's a secondary exploit that basically gives the attacker full access. Now, that's alarming in itself, but the advisory states that attackers were actively already exploiting this in the wild, which means that hackers already had access to this exploit. Apple didn't know about it, and they were actively exploiting it. Now, Apple exploits aren't easy. iPhones, macOS have been hardened over the years, very difficult to hack. So these types of exploits go for millions and millions of dollars in the black market, and usually only are afforded to things like nation states like China, Russia. We saw historically the Saudis had bought it to hack into Jeff Bezos and a few others. These are very rare exploits to see, so most likely it was being used by government entities to hack into phones and devices for high-level government officials, DoD contractors, researchers, things to that effect. And then when Apple got wind of it, obviously sounded the alarm, released the patches. But when they sound the alarm and release the patches, it lets all of the bad hackers know that there's exposures here, and they start developing the same type of exploits and attacks against these phones to go after consumers. So that's why it's so important to update your phone right now. And we don't see this happen very often. Historically, we don't see these types of hacks happen very often at all. So it's definitely something that we want to take advantage of and get those updates in as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have my work phone and personal phone, right in front of me, but, not you, but I think a lot of Americans like myself they see the pop-up, the notification, hey, you need to update with the latest iOS software. They either, press cancel, press delay, and then they never do it. And a lot of people, I think, do that on a number of their Apple devices.
Yeah, it's really imperative. So when there's a new update for your phone, those phones are adding new features, of course. We get iOS 15, iOS 16, iOS 17, 18, 19, 20 in the future. These are releasing new feature sets that allow us to have ease of access to our phone and new cool things that make our phone exciting. At the same time, though, they're also fixing software bugs. So maybe your battery's being drained more often, but they're also fixing major security issues. So there's the security researcher industry, which is where security researchers are going out and finding these flaws in Apple's, paying these researchers and fixing them. But there's also ones that are discovered in the wild. And when these are discovered in the wild, these are the ones that are particularly hostile to phones and devices and the integrity of security on those devices. And it's really important. So a good cadence for people at home listening is to, when you see those updates, try to patch them as quick as you can. Now, if there's no urgency, you're not seeing on the news all the time that there's a major urgency, maybe you can get away with a few days. But it's always imperative that you update with the latest amount of software because it's going to reduce those security vulnerabilities and the ability for, as the previous anchor had mentioned, ransomware groups that may want to hold your phone ransom in your photos. We've seen a lot of sextortion cases, unfortunately, where, they are bribing people to doing certain things, through their phones and things to that effect. It's a horrible scenario that you don't want to be in. And just by updating your phone, you usually can remove those types of things.
Okay, David, I just want to go over what some of these devices are. Security experts advising that the iPhone 6 and later models, several models of the iPad, including the 5th generation and later, all iPad Pro models and the iPad Air 2, and Mac computers running Mac OS Monterey. This also affects some iPod Touches and iPods as well. So in a sense, kind of covering the gamut of Apple products. What is Apple saying, though? Is Apple going to have to devise, internally in their company with, how to get out of something like this? Are they going to be held liable for something like this if, consumers like you and me don't know how to get out of it?
Usually the answer historically has been no. Okay. Software security vulnerabilities and bugs happen consistently. I mean, Microsoft has 0 days and exploits that happen all the time. We've seen them abused by nation states and hackers and ransomware groups. Usually the onus is unfortunately onto the user itself of those devices. And Apple does provide updates, for you to be able to address and to secure them and tries to get the notices out as much as possible through critical advisories, reaching the news and so forth. So the onus that typically isn't on the manufacturer of the device, but more so how do they react and how do they respond to allow their user population to fix these security exposures. So I don't see that happening for Apple particularly, but it's definitely something that we need to continue to hold these companies accountable to address these security vulnerabilities, earlier in the stages versus once it actually makes it out to the mass fleet of people and populations that are using these technologies.
Okay, David, just last question for you. This is so fascinating. So let's hypothetically game this out. If I have my phone in front of me, how would I know it was being taken over and hacked, essentially? Could I not access some things in the phone? Walk us through that. It has happened, correct?
So there's a few things. First, these types of hacks, when they happen, the code that runs in the back, you're probably not going to see anything, unfortunately. It's stealth. It runs in the background. That's why it's so weaponized by nation states and these types of groups that you see like Russia, China, that research these types of things. But, for groups that are looking at it from a ransomware perspective, you would start to see your device start to, exhibit, signs of maybe apps being deleted, emails being deleted, photos being deleted, notices popping up on your device and phone. We've seen malicious apps in the past hold, systems or devices under ransom. So you'd start to see, it depends on who the attacker is. If they're trying to go after like DoD secrets and high-level government officials, you're not going to see it. If it's for ransomware and they're targeting you for money, it'll happen pretty quickly, and you start to see a lot of pop-ups and things like that happen on your device.
All right, David Kennedy, as always, we appreciate your insight into this. Definitely a scary situation, but bottom line for everyone out there, got to update that software on your devices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Update as quick as you can. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend. See you.